In Isaiah chapter 14, we are introduced to a parable in which the king of Babylon is associated with the morning star, which is how we see Venus in the morning. In the parable, the king of Babylon is taken down from the skies into the underworld where he is punished for acting like he's God. When you are a morning star, you are rising to the top of ruling multiple nations, but that's only reserved for God. Therefore, if you are not God, you will not survive. You will be taken down to the underworld. Sometimes Venus appears as the evening star to us. The Bible identifies the king of Babylon and Jehoshua as morning stars, but the Bible never identifies anyone as the evening star or just Venus. In English, the planet is named after the Roman goddess of the same name. There are other religions that identify deities that are associated with Venus. They are not always the same deity, but sometimes they are. In the Sumerian religion, for example, that's Inanna. The Akkadians, Babylonians, and Assyrians called her Ishtar. If you stick around in the Near East, you will notice similar names in other pagan religions, such as Astarte, Ashura, Ashtaroth, and so on. Whatever she is called in whatever religion, she is usually associated with love, fertility, sex, beauty, and so on. Her husband changes from religion to religion. In the Canaanite religion, she is considered to be the wife of El. Jeremiah chapter 7 verse 18 mentions her as the Queen of Heaven. The title suggests that she is indeed the wife or perhaps a daughter of the Father God. In the Sumerian poem, The Descent of Inanna, Inanna identifies herself to be the Queen of Heaven. World History Encyclopedia states, start quote, Inanna was the Sumerian goddess of fertility, love, sexuality, procreation, and war, later identified with Ishtar. Her clergy were male, female, and transgender, with the men and women frequently cross-dressing to embody Inanna's transformative powers. The androgyny of Inanna's clergy and adherents is referenced in the poem in line 121, where she is said to have the power to turn a man into a woman and a woman into a man. The central focus of the work, in fact, is Inanna's power of transformation, which can be seen as destructive or painful but is always for a higher purpose. End quote. In the Greek religion, she is called Aphrodite, and her husband is Hermes, who is associated with Mercury. They had a child together called Hermaphroditus, who was either born or transformed into a hermaphrodite, being both male and female. So to make sense out of all of this, we need to understand pagan theology. Christianity is Jewish theology, which is built on top of paganism and contains some pagan stories, but overall Jewish theology is very different. Paganism is very messy, juvenile, and relies on natural symbolism. Take the halo as an example. It symbolizes the sun. You can see in the drawings of many religions a yellow disc behind the head of a person who is considered to be enlightened. The sun became naturally associated with God or a god. Venus shows up in the morning as a star, and then the ancients saw it go down, but the sun then comes up. Thus, Venus symbolically goes down to the underworld. Whoever becomes in charge of this world is like Venus. You see him rise to the top, but it's only temporary. God is always in charge. Earth is the third planet from the sun. Venus is the second planet from the sun and appears to be closer to the sun for this reason. Venus is the brightest planet in the solar system and is often considered to be Earth's sister or twin. In the next world, Jehoshua will establish his kingdom, but that world will come to an end as well. In fact, at the end of the day, the sun goes down as well. According to Hinduism, one day for the Creator is considered to be the length of a single cycle of the cosmos, which includes all the worlds. In the Descent of Inanna, Inanna decides to visit her sister and queen of the dead, Ereshkigal, in the underworld. Thus, like in the parable of Isaiah chapter 14, Venus is going to the underworld. Inanna is then stripped of her clothes, killed, hung on a hook, and resurrected at least 3 days and 3 nights later. That matches what happened to Joshua. He got stripped of his clothes, then he was crucified. He was most likely crucified naked. When he died, he descended into the underworld and was resurrected after 3 days and 3 nights. Ezekiel chapter 8 verse 14 mentions Israeli women weeping for Dumuzi, Inanna's husband. He took her place in the underworld because Inanna perceived that he had failed to properly mourn her dead. Eventually, because his sister volunteered to take his place, Inanna decreed that Dumuzi will spend half the year in the underworld and that she will spend the other half in the underworld. That's how seasons were explained. Both Jehoshua and Inanna predicted what would happen to them. Both were subjected to the Venusian program. Creation is programmed. It's composed out of codes, in other words. Codes are instructions. They follow and define patterns and algorithms. A program is a collection of codes that does something for a specific purpose. Programs exist within other programs. Programs are software. Some software creates other software and some software creates hardware. Every creature is a program. The weather is programmed. Planets are programs. If you want to move from one place to another, for example, using just your body, you have to walk to that place. You can't do it in any other way than how walking has been defined within the program that is your body, which is also called an avatar or soma. That means one leg forward, then the other one forward, then you repeat the same movement again. It's a pattern. Sex works in the same way. Even if humans would want to create something as simple as a chair, multiple attempts throughout the world would result in the same or similar result, mainly because the result needs to conform to our anatomy, which is roughly the same. However you look at anything, it needs to match the requirements of its purpose. Programs often exist in multiple varieties, just like human bodies exist in multiple varieties. We are all humans, but we are also different from each other. So there is a basic program that defines what a human is. Then there is a program that defines who we are as individuals, which is based on the soul. In addition, age, race, gender and so on make us look even more different. At the basic level, the Venusian program only requires a sacrifice to be made for what a person stands for. Take a warrior as an example who decides to fight for a cause that he believes in at the risk of dying for it. The required sacrifice doesn't always have to be a life. It can be anything, including a job. To receive the political right to rule over multiple nations, you will need to go through the Venusian program at the political level, which might mean being stripped naked, punished, put on display, killed and locked up in the underworld. The order of this sequence might vary slightly and some steps might be missing, but at least the basic requirements need to be met. The goal is punishment, starting with humiliation. Being stripped naked means being exposed. Being beaten, like Yehoshua was scorched, and dying means receiving the punishment. The corpse needs to be on display, which is a tactic that is often used to scare others from following suit. Only God has power over life. So only an incarnation of God could survive the Venusian program at this advanced level. The wages of sin is death, as stated in Romans chapter 6 verse 23, but the wages of the opposite is life. Creation is female. The word matrix comes from Latin where it means breeding female. Later on it meant womb. The Matrix in the Matrix movies is approximately the same idea as the Hindu concept of Maya, but unlike in the movie, it's not presented as being negative. Maya is creation, which is a simulated reality. It's no surprise that Buddha's mother was called Maya. He came through her into Maya. Yasha's mother was called Maria. Maya, Maria. Both men and women are birthed by women. The divine is male. Creation defines what to adjust to inside creation. That's why Inanna was never supposed to succeed with the Venusian program. Divinity defines what to overcome in creation, which is why Yehoshua succeeded with the Venusian program. That's why males are created to be dominant. We are bigger, stronger, more confident and so on. Those are the typical characteristics typical females are attracted to in men. Panentheism describes the relationship between creation and the divine in Maya. Creation and the divine are separate yet intertwined, male and female. Spirits are uncreated, but through the soul and our body we exist in creation. Our soul and body is a vehicle for our spirit in creation. If a creature tries to be God, it's like a woman trying to be a man. Inanna, in other words. When a man tries to be a woman, it's like trying to make the uncreated created. Yehoshua, in other words. If the uncreated and created could produce offspring, in pagan theology that would result in hermaphroditism. The Gospels document Yehoshua going to the Gospel program, which includes the Venusian program. The general idea of the Gospel program is that someone will introduce in his or her group something valuable that the group needs, but that person is going to be rejected, betrayed and punished. When we go to a story like the Gospel program, we play a role in them. What sex is to genders, that's what the story is to roles. Satan is a good example of a role. Satan is not his name. In the Old Covenant, he's a watcher who's called the Satan. It's a role. Satan doesn't define what evil is. God does. The more evil you are, the more your own personality will be like that of Satan. If you are evil enough, you are playing the role of Satan, just like the leading fallen angel in this world is playing the role of Satan. In the previous world, there was another watcher that was the Satan of that world. In the book of Enoch, he is identified as Azazel. If you are evil, but not evil enough to play the role of Satan, then you are a premature Satan, which is also a role. Likewise, Isaac from the Old Covenant is a premature Christ. In Genesis chapter 22, he was going to be sacrificed by his father. Premature roles foreshadow what will happen to the mature version of that role. The Christ, Pharisee, Judas, and so on are all roles. You have most likely come across people who are playing one of these roles. Christs are people who want to offer something useful but are rejected by those who need it the most. Pharisees are clowns or jokers who try to convince others that they are the opposite of that. They are the moralists, bootlickers, wussies, and so on. They don't have more to offer than a Christ, but thanks to their theatrics and bootlicking they are embraced by those who need what the Christ has to offer. Judas represents the Christ on the outside, but on the inside he is the same as the Satan. He will betray you for this reason. In the Gospel program, people who play these roles come together just like how stars and planets align in a specific order at specific times. You might have experienced a version of the Gospel program yourself. For example, in 2013 I came up with the idea to work towards becoming a guru. In the year after that I met a Satan. I didn't know that at the time. I began to work for his company. I was leading the effort to improve the quality of the company's software, which was a mess. It was not appreciated at all, but bootlicking and theatrics was appreciated, valued, promoted and defended. In fact, the Satan was discriminating against me because of that. He did everything he could to humiliate me as much as possible. Then I refused to let the bootlicker be my representative. I got betrayed by Jehovah's Witness while the Satan and his Pharisees were right in front of him. The Satan tried to give me all kinds of powers in his company in support of the bootlicking and theatrics. I rejected all of his attempts. Then I refused to come to the office. I worked at home for many months. Eventually I lost my job. Then I realized that I went through a business version of the gospel program and that I was in fact dealing with the Satan. A large portion of his employees were treated by a psychiatrist. Satans always hide their true identity and masquerade as angels of hope, love and tolerance, totally not mentally ill. It's like Apostle Paul has stated in 2 Corinthians chapter 11 verse 14. And no wonder, for even Satan masquerades as an angel of light. I had to put a lot of effort into figuring out what the Satan really is. Then I realized that I've met other Satans before. Everything in creation is telling you a story. Understanding that is an important step in your spiritual awakening. Everyone who's not spiritually awake is spiritually asleep and therefore doesn't see with their third eye. Take something as simple as a light switch as an example. When you look at one, what do you see? I see a disk drive which stores one bit of data. A bit consists out of two choices. Binary in other words. On or off. 1 or 0, true or false, male or female. However you define it. In programming it's also called a boolean. If you have 8 light switches, you have a disk drive that stores 1 byte of data. 1000 bytes is 1 kilobyte. 1024 bytes is 1 kibibyte. So if you have enough light switches, you could use them to save whatever you have on your computer. Everything you have on your computer is stored in bits, including movies, books, music, programs, and so on. A light switch looks simple to those who think it's only good for turning the light on or off. The light bulb just doesn't go off in their minds. John chapter 1 verse 5 states, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness hasn't comprehended it." If you are a Krishnaist, you need to be like Krishna as much as possible. If you are a Buddhist, you need to be like Buddha as much as possible. We need to be like Yahushua as much as possible. Krishna, Buddha, and Yahshua teach us how to overcome challenges. They are our role models. Yahushua played the role that we need to play. He faced the challenges that we need to face. He beat the same type of enemies that we need to beat. He showed us how to do it, and now we need to do it.